Here's the schoolhouse where it all began. The Christians, Baptists, Methodists, and all the people worshiped together at the original West Side School located on Orchard Road. The school on the left held first, third, and fourth grades, while an identical building across the street held second, fifth, and sixth grades. From 1931 until the end of 1932, they all met together, at which time the Baptists left over a disagreement and formed the Emmanuel Baptist Church. The people remaining decided to have a 4-week evangelistic meeting with First Christian Church minister J.J. Music holding the meetings. The meetings ran from January 7th through February 4th, 1933. The meeting was held at 1319 Garden Road. The rent for this house was only $4 a week. From this meeting, 23 members of the new congregation held an organizational meeting, and the church was organized as the Second Christian Church. Charter members included Mr. and Mrs. C.C. Austin and son Vestal Austin, Mamie Atkins, Ura Anderson, Mr. and Mrs. J.H. Bingham, and daughters Laura Lee Bingham Manning and Ethel Bingham Clark, Mary Foster Crumley, C.F. Gorley, Mrs. Jack Hankins, Mr. and Mrs. Harless, Jack and Ada Johnson, Francis Johnson, Mrs. Frank Newsom, Mrs. W. H. Scott, Mr. and Mrs. S. A. Williams, U. A. Williams, and Howard Hayes. Laura Lee and Ethel are our only surviving charter members. Ethel is the longest playing musician with over 60 years of playing the piano and organ, having begun playing for the church at the early age of 11 years old. Also, our annual Vacation Bible School was begun under her direction. J.H. Bingham was the first elected minister. 2 elders were elected, J.H. Bingham and C.C. Austin, as well as 3 deacons, C.F. Gorley, S.A. Williams, and W.A. Williams. Ura Anderson was elected the first church clerk. In October of 1933, M.B. Miller held the first revival meeting with several additions. Earlier that year, in May of 33, the congregation had purchased 2 lots on West G Street from Paul Pickle, with J.H. Bingham and C.C. Austin and S.A. Williams as trustees. The amount of $225 was paid in cash for the lots. Construction began immediately on the building. By October of 1933, the new building was occupied but not finished. It had only subflooring and the windows had not been installed. The heating system consisted of 1 small potbelly stove. At this time, the name was changed to West End Church of Christ. From September of 41 through October of 42, extensive remodeling of the original building was done. The building erected in 1933 was raised, the basement excavated, and Bible school rooms were built. Also, a vestibule and a bell tower were built. At this time, the outside walls were veneered with brick, and new windows were donated by families of the church. When the remodeling was completed, the name was changed again, this time to West Side Church of Christ. The church building continued to undergo many changes. The inside of the church auditorium was remodeled with major repairs to the ceiling and to the plastered walls. In 1948, an addition was built to the church building. The baptistry was installed and 2 classrooms, the study, the nursery, and restrooms were added. Now that the church building was finished, other things were bought. A mimeograph so we could have a church bulletin, a Hammond organ, new pews, and a new piano were purchased. Then we started buying property around us. A building lot to the east of us was bought from J.W. Hill. On the west of us, Fay Tolliver sold us a lot. In 1954, the church was struck by lightning, but resulted in only moderate damage. The church was up and growing. Because of the need for additional space, the current sanctuary was built. It was dedicated in April of 1962. Then in the fall of 1963, a fire destroyed the old building caused from faulty wiring. Where the old building was, a new educational wing was added to the new sanctuary in 1966. More property was added that adjoined the church property. The Fay Tolliver house was purchased, and the Hill service station was bought from Seif Cole. Both of these properties were torn down and paving was done so we could have additional parking. 2 houses on the corner of Happy Valley Street and Hunter Avenue were purchased. The houses were rented for a while, and then one was used for a youth house or for the youth minister to live in. Later the houses were sold and moved to another location. The men of the church built the pavilion, which is used for many church functions. The church has owned 3 different parsonages. The first parsonage was located at the end of Happy Valley Street. This was where Ken Smith and his family, as well as Bill Gardner and his family, lived. The second parsonage was located at 511 Parkway Boulevard and was purchased in 1965. The Ron Savitz family, as well as the Curtis family, lived in this house. In 1984, a new parsonage was built at 737 Ridgefield Road. The Curtis family occupied it first, and now the Key family lives in it. It's hard to believe the many changes that have taken place in 75 years. We have seen the many ways God has blessed our congregation and look forward to how God will use this congregation in the future.